Hello and welcome to Everyday Tarot, your daily dive into the divine wisdom of the tarot. I'm your host, Camille A. Saunders, healer, intuitive tarot reader, and professional witch, and today I'm talking about the color brown in color magic. Whether you're a seasoned tarot reader or just starting to explore, this podcast offers daily insights, intuitive messages, and practical advice drawn from the cards. Each episode is designed to help you connect with your inner wisdom, find clarity in your decisions, and tap into the energy of the universe. Tune in every day, Monday through Friday, for fresh perspectives and empowering guidance from the tarot as interpreted by me. If you love the show, the best way to support it for free is by listening daily, leaving a review, and subscribing or following in your favorite podcast app. I am looking for more guests to be on the podcast, probably 1 to 2 more, so I can fill out my guest season through the end of the year. So if you're interested or know someone that might be a good fit, please fill out my form to be a guest on the podcast, or you can always email me, me@CamilleASaunders.com, with a name or contact information if there's someone you want to recommend. I would love if you want to get my free 2025 5-card tarot spread I created just for you, my lovely listeners, at the beginning of the year by joining my newsletter list. So my weekly newsletter always has the most up-to-date information on upcoming events, presentations, musings, and info and photos of my day-to-day life. If you're local and you want to meet me in person, you can join us for our last full moon circle of 2025 on December 7th. Celebrate the glow of the full moon with me and my colleague Izzy for an evening of connection, reflection, and ritual. We meet at Thresholds Collective in Tacoma the first Sunday of the month to welcome in the full moon together. We run a 90-minute event, again, doing tarot, talking about astrology, doing some journaling, like personal reflection, usually a bit of sharing. I do a collective tarot reading, then we usually all pull cards individually, do a bit of tarot. Then Izzy usually leads us in an embodied or somatic practice, and then usually we end our ritual with a release or manifestation that we write down, and then we burn pieces of paper in my little mini cauldron outside under the glow of the full moon, and then before we wrap up together. So tickets for the December 7th event are up now, and we would love to see you there. You can find the links for any of the offers in the show notes or on my website at CamilleASaunders.com/everydaytarot, in addition to the images of the cards I pull for each episode. All right, well, welcome to season 18, where I'm talking all about color magic. If you haven't listened to my other seasons yet, you can check those out. But today I'm talking about the color brown. So I'll get into general things about the color. We'll get into a bit of color magic. We'll talk days of the week correspondences, and then we will talk specific tarot cards that have the color brown on them in my decks. And then I will pull a card at the end to talk about how we can work with the color brown today. So to start, we'll be jumping over to Wikipedia about the color brown. So brown is a color. It can be thought of as darker or usually desaturated, a shade of orange, which is interesting. So if you listen to my orange episode earlier this week, there might be some similarities. In the printing and painting color model, brown is usually made by combining yellow, magenta, and black. And then in the color model, the RGB, so red, green, blue color model used to project colors onto TV screens and computer monitors, brown is the result of combining red light at low intensity and green light at an even lower intensity, with blue light also being present in most shades of the color. So, right, often, again, brown, if you ever did painting or watercolor or anything like that as a kid, mixing colors together, right, markers or anything, you know that kind of mixing a lot of colors together often makes it look brown. And the color brown is seen widely in nature, in wood, soil, human hair color, eye color, and skin pigmentation. Brown is the color of dark wood and rich soil. Let's see here. And then, yeah, in like the color model that you would have used as a kid, again, like the red, yellow, blue primary color model, brown is made by mixing the 3 primary colors, red, yellow, and blue together. According to public opinion surveys in Europe and the US, brown is the least favorite color of the public. often associated with kind of gross things, right? Fecal matter, plainness, rustic, although we do have some positive associations like baking or warmth or wildlife or autumn or fall, and music. The music one is interesting. Why? Maybe just, I don't know. That's very interesting. Let's see here. Is there anything else I want to talk about with brown? I love that on the Wikipedia, they will pull like images that they associate with each color. So what they show in this one are coffee beans, a brown bear, the planet Mars. So again, right, in our orange or red episodes, we've talked about Mars, an amber brown eye, and then a brown field. So again, we have a lot of naturally occurring things, like lots of browns in nature. All right. Yeah, and apparently, so the English word for brown was brune, and was like a dusky or dark shade of the color. And that's how we kind of got the English word brown. In a lot of other languages, like Turkish, Greek, Portuguese, Spanish, French, the word for the color brown comes from coffee, or the color of coffee. So you have like cafe, right? It's like that in Spanish. And then also chestnuts. So like, again, a naturally occurring thing, nuts, castanea in Latin, and some other places. And then in other places, it comes from the word chocolate. So it's almost like we named it after, right, the things that we like and that were maybe natural in your part of the world. And so that's very interesting. And in Japan, it comes from the color of tea. So again, sort of associated like the color orange, right? Where it's like we had the fruit first and then we kind of worked backwards towards the name of the color. It sounds like brown is similar in a lot of ways. All right. So brown and color magic. Again, not all color magic like talks about the color brown. Usually we kind of go with like the rainbow colors, right? Red, how does it go? Red, yellow, orange, green, blue, indigo, violet. I feel like I forgot one there. Anyway, so we don't always have pink, right? We don't always have white or black or brown. And the other one that came up was like gray, which I'm not going to do this season, but we will talk about gold and silver. I felt like gray was too similar to silver. Whereas brown, I felt like has its own associations. Again, sometimes negative, but in the rachelpatterson.co.uk article about color magic, they talk about that brown is associated with endurance, houses and homes, uncertainties, and influence friendships. Very interesting. Houses and homes, again, maybe because we make them of wood or like mud or thatch, right? All of those things are more brown. I almost thought it said horses, which I was like, oh yeah, horses are brown. But no, houses and homes. On my days of the week correspondences, there's no color, like there's no day associated with brown. Again, I think we could kind of go like Tuesday is red because for the planet Mars and the god Jew. I always have to look it up. And so it could be that one. That's probably like the closest because we have yellow Sunday, white for Monday, red for Tuesday, purple for Wednesday, blue for Thursday, green for Friday, and black for Saturday. When I have some brown shirts, and as you know, as I've talked about, I like to wear the colors associated with each color of the week for the color magic correspondences. So today I'm recording this on Monday. I'm wearing white, although I'm wearing black pants, but I have a white shirt. I actually organize my shirts colors by the days of the week. So we start with yellows for Sunday. I kind of put the browns with like either Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday because I only have 2 yellow shirts, I think. I have a lot of white, so usually I'm covered for Monday. And then, yeah, again, like Tuesday I kind of lump all of like red, orange, because orange also doesn't have its own day color. Pink also doesn't have its own day color. And then brown sometimes too on those days, or sometimes I wear them on some days. It kind of depends, but usually at the beginning of the week. I'm not totally sure why. I guess those are the days that it feels closest to the colors of, like if we were to mix. All right, so yeah, again, not a lot of talk there. It's not really in my days of the week correspondences, but I've shared with you how I choose to deal with that. And again, in tarot, I would say brown, not normally like a feature color, although I did pull some of my decks to look for brown, and I kind of knew ones that have brown in them. They're ones I've showed before, so the Herb Crafter's Tarot and the Therapist Who Tarot deck. And I think a lot of it is because, so the Herb Crafter's Tarot is all plants, pretty much. Yeah, I guess all plants. So I knew because there's a lot of brown in nature, like I could find some brown cards in that one. And I remember that they have cacao, so like the like origin of chocolate in there. And I was like, okay, perfect. Like that's definitely brown. And then in the Therapist Who Tarot deck, I feel like they use watercolor to do the imagery, which is very cool. And just because of watercolor, so instead of like photos or digital art or even acrylic paints, watercolor, again, because it kind of mixes together, I feel like you end up with more browns sometimes, because again, like when you were a kid and you use all the colors at once because that seems really fun, like you can end up with brown more often. So I just was like, okay, I know these two decks have them. A lot of my other decks are very brightly colorful, maybe have a bit of brown in them, but I knew these two would have ones that had like a decent amount of brown that I could pull. So let's start with the Therapist Who Tarot deck. So I pulled 3 cards from here, and there were actually more that had brown. All of these cards, though, in this deck, they rarely feature just one color. So, you know, take the brown association with a grain of salt for these ones. But we have here the Healer, which is, I'm gonna have to look it up now. It's the 5th card. So is that the, I was gonna say it's the Sovereign and the, so the Hierophant. Oh, interesting. Okay, so the Healer in the Therapist Who Tarot deck is the number 5 Major Arcana card, which is the Hierophant. And then I also pulled that card in the Herb Crafter's Tarot. So both the Hierophants are in this, which is interesting that those are associated with brown. The Hierophant is usually depicted as like a very Pope-like looking person, a very religious person. So both of these decks, you know, obviously the plant one, it's not going to have people. But in the Therapist Who Tarot deck, they also, like, there's a bit of renaming that goes on. And so it's interesting that they choose not to use the Hierophant. Instead, they have the Healer. And so it says the word associated with this one is kindness. And we kind of see like some tree roots in this one, which is interesting, or like something that alludes to tree roots. And then we see these like brown circles that almost look like how tree stumps look, where they have like, you know, the rings of a tree that you can kind of tell how old they are, that each ring is for a year of growth. If you didn't know that, yeah, that's how you do that. And then so on the back of the Therapist Who Tarot cards, this does not have a tarot deck guidebook with it, but it does have reflection questions on the back. It says, what is your secret weapon? When do you feel most powerful? And about what should you be more patient? So very interesting. And then, like I said, yeah, I also pulled that card from the Herb Crafter's Tarot, and that is the cacao card. So I'm going to read a bit from that tarot deck guidebook. So cacao, right, is what chocolate comes from. And these have like sort of a poem or a phrase associated with it, then a description of the card, then sort of the tarot definition, and then also how to craft with it, because this is herb crafting. So this says the Hierophant or cacao, a revelation is at hand. Seek the truth in spiritual teachings. The most potent wisdom emerges from the heart. So this one says the secrets of the sacred are available to all. Learn them, teach them. Drinking pure cacao is an ancient practice that leads to greater perceptive awareness by opening the heart. Commercial chocolate is cacao stripped of some of its beneficial properties, cloaked in delicious, yet sometimes harmful ingredients. Only true cacao can open the capillaries and increase blood flow. Spiritual teaching must speak authentically to reach the heart, but some things must be revealed slowly, as too much cacao can cause the pulse to quicken. Again, if you've ever consumed something that has like a lot of caffeine or something, right, you've maybe experienced that. Learning too much too fast can be overwhelming. Have patience with the pace of the divine, remain devoted to mystery, and yet have respect for ceremony. Which again, like, a lot of us consume chocolate now, which again is mixed with milk products and other things, often oils, and other stuff to make the delicious product that we sort of know and love. But traditionally cacao, I mean, if you've ever had like a very high percentage chocolate bar where it's like 90% chocolate, you will realize that chocolate has like no sugar in it. So they add sugar to chocolate bars, right? Again, to make them taste maybe more normal to our palate or along with other things. But it really, decreases, right, some of the strength or bitterness of cacao. And the cacao was traditionally like a medicine that was practiced. So we've sort of bastardized is what I want to say, like this ceremonial practice and turned it into like perhaps like junk food, which we definitely, at least in the US, I would say have a tradition of doing. Where there's sort of things that we have changed from their original state and perhaps don't feel as connected with anymore. But yeah, this is saying, right, that just like cacao, right, it's very powerful. And so there's also this aspect of, ooh, you got to take it slow, right? Like when things are very powerful, again, like if you think of a very, like a bitter taste, perhaps like coffee or again, chocolate, if you don't have ones that have as much milk or sugar in them, it's like, yeah, no, I can't eat that much of it. I've had like 98, 99% chocolate. And I'm like, yeah, no, like a, let me think how big, like a chiclet. Do you remember those candies? Like little squares, or like sprees or like Skittle. Like a Skittle sized amount of chocolate is like about good when it's like 99% chocolate for me personally. Anyway, so you can try cacao. They are also a bean, like coffee, sort of. Anyway, so let's move on. But cacao, where we have the Hierophant and the Healer in the Therapist Tarot deck, both associated with brown here, which kind of has, again, that like warmth. I like that that's renamed to the Healer in the Therapist Tarot one. That feels sort of apt for this. Let's see here. Okay, let's move on to the other cards. So I pulled some other major arcana cards, so I'll look at those too. So we have the World in the Therapist Tarot deck, which again, I would say sort of traditionally, because it depicts the world itself or the planet, like of Earth, or often this like circular aspect. Here we have, again, sort of a circular aspect, almost looks like a seed. If you're like a gardener, if you've planted seeds before, especially if you've planted big seeds, like a pea or like beans or anything, you'll know that when they first sprout or if they're soaked in water, they will sort of like grow this little root out of it. And that's sort of what this card looks like. Like we see this green circle, like bubble, and then we see kind of like a human figure in the middle that's brown, and then all of these roots coming out the bottom. So it's almost like the seed is like cracking open and right, it's becoming something else. So here we have the World, which is here it says success, and the reflection questions associated with it are: what is the riskiest thing you've ever done? About what should you be more careful? And when was the last time you lied? Very interesting. So right, again, the World is sort of, that's the last major arcana card in the cycle. If we start with the Fool, we end with the World. And again, we think of it as a cycle, so then we start over again. So we have that circular aspect. We also have the brown sort of rootedness, again, literally, of the earth, which is interesting. Another one I pulled, and this is from the Herb Crafter's Tarot, is the Hanged One, or the Hanged Man. And this depicts burdock, which burdock is often considered a weed. It is a very deeply rooted plant, so it has a very long taproot, kind of like a carrot would, or other kind of rooted plants, beets, parsnips, other things. So here we see that really long root. And if you use burdock medicinally, generally you use the root aspect of it. So we see the root here. And it says, embrace a foe as a friend, tap into nourishment found in the depths, let go of control, and lasting change takes time. It's very similar to our cacao message here, that, right, powerful things take time. It says challenge presents an opportunity for growth. Though burdock is a tenacious weed, it can also be a valuable plant. The presence of burdock might indicate where the land is lacking nutrients. Using the large leaves as mulch can bring nourishment to the surface. When the leaves break down, the soil will improve and burdock will no longer have conditions to thrive. Flip the script on a difficult situation, because again, remember, this is like the Hanged Man card. See the problem as the solution. Burdock is also a valuable ally for the liver, as it helps clear and release toxins. But healing the land or the body requires a long-term commitment. Surrender to the process. Deep change takes time. So again, we have that like time in memoriam message. The other cards I pulled were from the Herb Crafters one, the Seven of Earth and the Seven of Fire, which would be like the Seven of Pentacles and the Seven of Wands. Those are the earth and fire elements. So the earth one is oak, like an oak tree, or acorns, you know, and then we have cinnamon for the Seven of Fire. And both of these, right, if you think of cinnamon sticks and also of acorns, right, those are all brown products that we have. And I thought it was interesting they were both sevens. I mean, 7 is seen as like a powerful number in a lot of ways, like a magical number. So the Seven of Fire, we have cinnamon. Ancestral traditions remind us who we are. Answer the call of the ancients, seek vision from ancestors, and take a stand for your whole authentic self. And then, so that was cinnamon. And then for earth, which is oak here, or pentacles, it says, live by the rhythms of the earth, work slowly and steadily towards your goal, and plant for the generations to come. So again, we have this like very earthy, garden, rooty plant metaphors, right, with all of these almost, which is very interesting. I was not necessarily expecting that across, but I guess because we see maybe brown so much in nature, soil, trees, a lot of plants, right, again, in the autumn times and all the trees lose their leaves, everything turns very brown. And what else? It says oaks are slow growing, long-lived sovereigns of the land. Oaks only grow about 1 foot per year. When it is time to build your future, listen for the call of the earth. Like the oak, you have worked hard and gather your rewards. It says that during Hurricane Harvey, a Texan said that seeing a 1,000-year-old oak standing after Hurricane Harvey, you don't get old by being weak. Have faith in your work. The fruits of your labor will last beyond your lifetime. Look to the pace of nature for guidance. The seasons will give you direction. So again, very nature-based themes. And then our final card is the Queen of Cups, where we see, again, the sort of brown or a bit more like gold orange person. They're holding a big kind of bowl or cup in front of them that's blue. And this is the Queen of Cups equivalent, or the Queen of Cups in the Therapist Who Tarot deck. And it says calm and harmony. And the reflection questions on the back say, what question must you answer as soon as possible? What matters most? And what conversation have you been avoiding? All right, so very interesting themes here today, ones I was not even expecting. So let's go ahead and pull a card here about how can we work with the color brown today. I'm going to be using the Seasons of the Witch Samhain Oracle, illustrated by Giada Rose. and created by Lorraine Anderson and Juliet Diaz. How can we work with the color brown today? Are there any other messages we need to know? Let's see here. Okay. Oh, I pulled this card the other day. The third harvest. The poem associated with it says, "Daughters of the woods, feel thy sacred swell with suppleness. Taste the gathering of honey's milk, filling your emptiness." And it's kind of like a prepare for winter card, which feels appropriate right now, it is getting colder where I live. Let's see. Samhain served as a practical holiday that told our ancestors to prepare for the coming winter. The third harvest was a time to gather up the remainder of crops, to prepare and store them to have enough food to last the harsh conditions. The last of wheat would be ground to flour, the remains of fruits and vegetables would be pickled and canned, and meats salted. Everything with a shelf life was stored in the underground cellars and packed with ice. Though winters may be harsh and gathering up your food is hard work, there's a feeling of abundance and pride in getting prepared. Again, we have that like slowness theme, right? Where it's like, all right, like we're entering the slow season of the year. Let's make sure that we're stocked up and we're ready to kind of like hunker down and be cozy for winter. Imagine looking at your food stores and seeing a physical representation of your work. Imagine seeing the abundant rewards of planting your seeds and nourishing them as they grow. If you are holding the third harvest, you are being guided to gather up your accomplishments and to celebrate your wins. Take a look at everything you've done and achieved. Make a store of these wins to come back to whenever you are feeling low or like you have failed. The easiest way to attract more abundance is to feel abundant. Having the stockpile of feel-good moments will kickstart you and can help turn around feelings of lack or stagnation. So there's also this theme of sort of like gratefulness, right? Like we're gonna be grateful for the things that we've gained from this year, and really think about those things instead of sort of maybe being fearful for our potential to, you know, metaphorically starve through the winter time. Although I think traditionally sort of people would actually starve more come spring, because that's when you've kind of run out of all your food. The weather's getting warmer, which actually means that your food that's been stored in cold, dark areas actually goes bad faster. And then it's like some plants have started to come up, but nothing super substantial. A lot of our, higher calorie crops, like corns or any grains or beans or things like that, are much more like summer, fall plants. And so right in the spring, we have asparagus, we have garlic scapes, we have, various flowers. But again, it's like there's no fruits yet, really, unless you live in sort of a more tropical or temperate area. Not a lot going on. There's some things flowering again, but it's like you can't eat just a lot of flowers. And so that's actually traditionally the harder time of year. So here, right, we're actually going into our sort of like, all right, you've done all the hard work. Now we get to look at it, right? Go in your pantry and be like, yes, look at us go. Look at all that food I stored up. Look at how prepared I feel. Look at my garden. The abundance from the garden, and then let me try to kind of live off of that for this time of year, right? It's kind of living off, right? Again, perhaps the highs of summer or the joys of vacation or things like that, and trying to, find joy in these colder, darker months as well, at least in the Northern Hemisphere. All right. Well, thanks for joining me today. If you want to join me on the journey of using the tarot for transformation, I'm kicking off my workshops. That'll be monthly in 2026, and I have a link for if you are interested in that. I'll send you more info. Links for the tarot decks I talk about will always be in the show notes and on my website if you'd like to look at them or purchase them. And thanks for joining me today on Everyday Tarot. Just as a reminder, the podcast comes out daily Monday through Friday for all of 2025. You can email me, me@CamilleASaunders.com, with your thoughts, questions, and more. All right, see you soon. Bye-bye.